Yeah, so again, welcome to this new webinar. Today we talk about a topic that is very interesting and has been debated a lot in EU member countries, which is NIS2. And therefore, the title of our webinar today is Navigating NIS2 Readiness, Building Cyber Resilience with NinjaOne. And all good, Dominic. I share the right screen.
Looks good to me.
Perfect. All right. So I think we need to activate the chat. So can everyone please write hello in the chat? So I activated it now. Yes. Hello, guys. Very happy to talk to you here. And who are we? We're just going to introduce ourselves real quick. So my name is York, like the city York, or the Duke of York, as you can see on this beautiful picture. And I work as a product marketing manager here in Berlin. And yeah, my dear colleague, Dominic, the senior solution sorcerer, he took this picture of me in York. But yeah, maybe you wanna introduce yourself real quick, Dominic.
Sure. Whoa, let me get myself in frame here. But yeah, my name is Dominic. I'm one of the senior solutions engineers here at Ninja. I've been with Ninja for nearly 5 years. So essentially, once York is kind of done with his presentation, we'll be diving into the console and going over kind of how you guys can implement these specific changes and these specific actions in the console that you guys have.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dominic. And yeah, a couple of housekeeping items, and then we also take a look at the agenda. So first of all, please feel free to use the chat. We want this to be interactive. And if you have any technical questions or questions in general, please use the Q&A function. That's easier for us than to keep a good overview of everything. And yeah, stay until the end. We have a little goodie, a giveaway. We will do the Wheel of Fortune, and one lucky winner can have a DJI drone. So it's a drone to take pictures. So I think it's a really nice gift. Hopefully, we will be able to deliver it before Christmas. Although I cannot promise this 100%. But anyways, I think it's a great gift. And yeah, shortly about the agenda. So today we're gonna talk about NIS2, of course, but the goal is not to really go into all the technical details, all the legal details, and also small disclaimer here. So this is no legal advice, obviously. The idea is more to give you a high-level overview and also to give you our perspective as a technology vendor who is obviously also a player in this field and who is also potentially even part of the companies that are regulated. So we don't know that yet for sure. We'll see next year, I think. And yeah, and therefore, obviously, this compliance topic is very important for us. We want to understand what's our position. We want to understand how we can help our customers, our partners. And therefore, in the beginning, and I have this hypothesis, if you want to, this easy hypothesis, that really the stronger your fundamentals are, your cybersecurity fundamentals, the easier it is to deal with NIS2 and with compliance topics in general. It could be also ISO, or it could be Cyber Essentials in the UK, or it could be BSI in Germany, and so on. And therefore, at the beginning, just have a quick look here at the fundamentals, the importance of the fundamentals, then have a look at who is actually concerned by NIS2, and have a look at the new liability rules. So this also shows us that the regulatory or the European Union and the European Commission are really serious about this and they really want to enforce these higher security standards. And then obviously at the end, what is our approach, layered endpoint security on NinjaOne, and how we think we can also help companies to become compliant. Yeah, thanks for writing where you're from in the chat. By the way, I'm German and my colleague He grew up in the US, but I think he has Croatian roots, so we are also a good European team here. All right. Then now let's jump into why the fundamentals are so important and what is the reasoning, or why do we have NIS2? Why do we have NIS1? Obviously, it's the answer is quite easy, because attacks on critical infrastructure have been on the rise. There have been these very famous attacks, for example, on the Colonial Pipeline in the US, but also in Europe, there have been many attacks. And when we take a closer look at these attacks, we can also learn a lot on what happens and also what inspires in the end the regulation such as NIS2. And here I forgive you. I hope you forgive me that I use here some German examples, and I also excuse myself here for the inappropriate language on the right side. But this actually is from a German podcast on this cybersecurity, this ransomware attack on a regional government in Germany. And this is actually what the PC users and the administrators were seeing when they turned on their devices one wonderful day in the year 2021. But this regional government is a very interesting case. So it's from the German region Anhalt-Bitterfeld. I think people probably don't know this region if they're not from Germany. But anyways, it is an interesting case, because 1,000 devices. It was certainly not regulated by NIS1, but will be most likely regulated by NIS2. So this will also depend on the German law, on the national law. We will see that will be passed in March or April next year. But anyways, this organization, this regional government organization, had some serious cybersecurity flaws in their cybersecurity fundamentals. For example, before they got hit by this ransomware attack, for example, they were using this niche application, which they had difficulties to update, and therefore they gave local admin rights to all their end users, or to most of their end users. And this obviously makes lateral movement much easier. And then another flaw that we have seen here was that, for example, they had 16 people in the IT department, but 31 domain admin users with domain admin rights, although they had just 16 in the IT team. And this was also a bit for convenience and so on. But again, this is obviously, I think, as most people here know, this is a security risk, a serious security risk, and makes lateral movement for attackers in a network much easier. Then they were also missing a patch, the printing nightmare with the CVE, which also was quite big at the time. And yeah, they were really overwhelmed by the situation, and they even called the German army. So I think that's interesting. So that's why it will be really go into the history, into German history in that sense. So an organization has called the German army because they were dealing with a cybersecurity or with a cyber attack. And then we had another attack, ransomware attack on a hospital. So this is more like a classical case. So this was even regulated under NIS1. It's also regulated under NIS2 now. And here we had also a vulnerability exploited, a VPN, Citrix VPN client vulnerability. And very tragic, one person even died because of the service interruption of this ransomware attack. So this is the seriousness, obviously, but this also shows us that many of these attacks are actually using typical cybersecurity flaws that in the end everyone knows about, but people are still struggling to implement them, although probably everyone knows about them. And then there's also obviously a financial aspect, the cost, for example, of data breaches, which is also rising in Europe. So over 2023, 10% increase in the cost for a breach. And here specifically leading in Europe. So this is based on the IBM data breach report, so very recent also. And leading here, we have Benelux with 5.9, Germany 5.3, but also Italy very high. So I have heard from my colleagues that we have quite a lot of Italian participants today, and France a bit lower, but also in the top 10 countries in Europe and even worldwide. Yeah, and then also an interesting finding of this IBM data breach report and also of the Verizon data breach investigation report. They're very recent, so I advise everyone to have a look at them. They're interesting. Of course, we always, when we think about vulnerabilities and so on, we think a lot about when we think about ransomware or about cybersecurity, we think a lot about phishing, obviously, but actually the exploitation of vulnerability is really on the rise. And in this data breach report, they found that 60% of the breaches had actually exploited known vulnerabilities where patches were available. And then even that over the period, so 2022, 23, over the period of this report, there was an 180% increase where the exploitation of vulnerabilities was the primary attack vector. So, and then also, obviously, critical infrastructure always has a problem with deploying in time because it's not so easy for hospitals or for other or energy infrastructure and so on to just reboot servers and so on, of course, but still the delayed deployment of updates is also a big issue. Yeah, so who is concerned then? And I think here's very interesting to look also at the difference between NIS1 and NIS2. So in NIS1, actually, we had 7 sectors, and in NIS2, we have 18 sectors. And what is really interesting also for us, obviously, so there are 2 categories here, sectors of high criticality and other critical sectors. So the other critical sectors, all of them basically are new in NIS2, but within the sectors of high criticality, we also have some new ones. For example, space, okay. I think that does not concern us as much. I guess we don't have any space companies here today. But for example, for a vendor like NinjaOne, now ICT services, so MSPs, MSSPs, they are directly regulated. They are concerned as sectors of high criticality. And yeah, we have seen these attacks on the supply chain, obviously also, sorry, I'm a bit sick. They have been rising also. We had a very big one here in Germany at the end of 23 that was big in the news. Also, again, government. And this is another new one, public administration. This was not a highly critical sector in NIS1, but it's a new sector. It's a new sector now. And there are still a lot of question marks based on the European Commission and on the directive. National member states, so the member states of the European Union, they were supposed to transpose this directive into national law by October 17, 20, so this year actually, 24. But in the end, only 6 countries managed to do that. Belgium, Croatia, Hungary, Italy. So Italy did its homework again, in comparison with Germany or France, for example. Latvia, Lithuania, and yeah, but big countries such as Germany that are also attacked a lot, they will pass it most likely next year in March or April, and in France, it's also in the process. But the number is high, so it's estimated that 180,000 companies will be regulated by this new directive. Yeah, and then there's another important classification that helps people to find themselves and to put themselves to understand if they're concerned or not. And this is the size here. And we have, for example, large entities. And when we take an MSP, a managed service provider, as an example, just for the explanation. So if they have more 250 employees or more, they are considered a large entity, and they are considered essential. And they also have to have more than 50 million annual turnover, and or, sorry, there's a mistake on the slide here, and or 43 million annual balance sheet in total. And then when we have an MSP, let's say with 100 employees, so then he would fall into the category of medium entities, and he's called important under this regulation. So this means at least 50 employees and more than 10 million annual turnover, and or 10 million balance sheet in total. And yeah, there's a lot of exceptions. The idea is not to go into all the exceptions here, but I think, for example, if you're an MSP, or if you're public in administration, or if you are in one of the sectors maybe that is new now in NIS2, then this can give you a quick idea if you will be concerned or not. And I think this will be important. By April 17 next year, 2025, European member countries are supposed to provide a list of large entities, and so essential entities and important entities. But we'll see if they will actually do this. I think this will obviously generate a lot more clarity. Yeah, but of course, this is how you can find yourself. But the European Union also has really bumped up the enforcement, or let's say the potential sanctions, and also the liability. So now the management of companies is directly liable, and they cannot blame it on IT, or they cannot hide behind the IT department. So cybersecurity really becomes a matter of strategic importance for every company that is regulated, or that falls under NIS2. And obviously there are different degrees. There are, the regulatory bodies, and these liabilities, they concern basically two articles. So this is Article 21 about the cybersecurity measures, and Article 23 about the incident reporting. And if there are violations of these articles, then in a bigger violations will lead to these fines, so to these administrative fines. Smaller violations will only lead to to regulatory bodies asking or giving instructions to companies to change their cybersecurity measures. But again, the potential, if the violation is hard, and that we will see in practice, obviously, we don't know exactly yet, but if the violation is hard, then for essential entities, it can go up over 10 million. So it's a max of at least 10 million, or 2% of the worldwide turnover. And here we're talking at least, so this can also vary from nation state, from member state to member state. And for the important entities, we're looking at least 7 million, or 1.4 of the worldwide annual turnover. And here it always counts what is more, if it's the percentage, or if it's the actual number. So yeah, we can see that they are really serious about this. And yeah, now a quick overview here about the cybersecurity measures. So when this is breached, the fines can kick in, or they can be attributed, or how do you say that? And here you see the cybersecurity measures, and we did actually a survey, and the result is interesting, obviously, and this also shows us why this is a super important topic for us. Is here on the very top, we have security in the supply chain. Again, I already mentioned that. We have obviously more attacks on MSPs, for example, but we also had attacks on vendors, and this is a big concern. obviously. And this is also why, for example, we as a company, NinjaOne, we are extremely proactive about this. And cybersecurity is since the creation, but now even more, obviously, but it's really like in our DNA. And that's why we have SOC 2, for example, in the US for the North American market. We have ISO 27001. We have FedRAMP in North America. And we also have, we're not sure yet if Ninja will be directly regulated by NIS2, but we have already done all the compliance requirements for NIS2, and we have also checked that with an external auditor. So we'll see next year. Even if we're not NIS2 regulated, we will be ready. But what is also interesting here is the other. When you look, the second one is incident response. The fourth one is management of vulnerabilities. The fifth one is basic cyber hygiene. So also these cybersecurity fundamentals, and this is a bit what I meant in the beginning, like patching, keeping an overview of all your assets, of all your devices. This is also something that organizations and institutions are struggling with. So based on our survey, obviously. And yeah, so how are we approaching this? So we have a layered approach to endpoint security. And for us, it really starts with endpoint visibility in the beginning as a foundation. And then you build on top of that with device hardening, with patch management, vulnerability management, also for all operating systems, for third-party applications, then also integrations with security applications such as endpoint detection response solutions, such as other new solutions like Huntress or Bitdefender or CrowdStrike, etc. And then obviously, as a last line of defense, always backup. And we really want to put this together on one platform where you have all your endpoints. And I think this is a big challenge also to have consistent, coherent, and scalable management and IT management of all your endpoints and have a constant overview, which is really up to date of all these devices. So on Ninja, you can manage Windows, Linux, Android, macOS, iOS, Raspberry Pi now coming out, virtual environments on Hyper-V and VMware, network devices as well. And then the core functionality, endpoint management, includes patch management, software deployment, monitoring, and alerting. So for example, we can create alerts on brute force attacks. So if there is suspicious behavior in that sense, scripting, automation, and then we also offer remote access. We also have integrations now with ServiceNow, with companies such or Zendesk, which is important for your CMDB, etc. So you can leverage that data from Ninja. And then obviously endpoint detection response integrations. Yeah, now recently there was a report from the European Cybersecurity Agency, which was really interesting and which kind of confirms also this idea about the cybersecurity fundamentals. So they were looking at investments in IT in general. So of course, investments increase. The investments in information security or cybersecurity make up 9% of overall investments. But there has been a big increase, so 27% increase from 22 to 23. And what is really interesting also is that the companies, so I think ENISA, this agency, asked about 1,000 companies across all over Europe. And both the existing, so the ones that were already regulated by NIS1, and the new ones that are now under NIS2 as well, they focus their investments on baseline, on maintaining and strengthening the baseline. So the baseline things, the baseline of cybersecurity. And another one, And here, when we think about this German regional government, so actually they were looking at the performance in cybersecurity and governance risk and compliance metrics, and the existing ones, they outperformed the ones that are now coming in addition with NIS2. So there was definitely a positive effect. So, and I think, of course, this is the motivation behind all of that. And now, just before we jump into the tool with Dominic, a couple of key takeaways from our perspective. So really, our philosophy for our product and also for our cooperations with other technology vendors in the space is strengthening the cybersecurity fundamentals. And what is really interesting here now in the times of NIS2, I think compliance becomes more important in general. So the better you are in cybersecurity fundamentals, the easier it is to become compliant. And the head of ENISA, so the European Cybersecurity Agency, he said in an interview, and I thought that's really interesting, when you have ISO 27001, then you already cover 70% of NIS2. So then basically like the gap, that's more of these procedural and policy matters. But let's say from the ISMS, from the security perspective, you are in a really, really good position. But maybe even if you're not directly, even it turns out maybe you think now maybe NIS2 will regulate me, but then it turns out it actually doesn't. Yeah, but if you want to do business, obviously with these 180,000 companies in Europe, then you will have to be maybe ISO compliant, or you will have to have a way to show to your customers that you have that cybersecurity fundamental strong, that you have the compliance that you can show for, because obviously we are also part of the supply chain. We as a vendor, but our MSP customers and other customers are part of the supply chain. So I think the impact will be even much wider than just the 100, quote unquote, 180,000 companies. Yeah, and then obviously there are the stricter liability rules. So this obviously gives the enforcement bodies more power. And yeah, we will see how this will be applied throughout the next years. But yeah, it will be an ongoing process, and there will be also a transition period. I think every national law in every member country will give transition periods there as well. Yeah, then I would say, Dominic, let's move over to you and have a look how Ninja. I mean, here also disclaimer, obviously, like no technology makes you compliant, but obviously having good technology partners makes it much easier to get compliant.
Exactly. Yeah, so kind of looping into what York was saying earlier, gonna go through the Ninja dashboard, show you guys how you can get some visibility over these patches and over your devices, keep them up to date, and then make sure that they're all following those kind of protocols that you guys have set in place. So first thing we'll start with is the overall visibility. Of course, within the Ninja dashboard here, you guys have full control of both your OS and your third-party software patches. One of the best places to get a nice general overview is going to be this OS patching overview section. Here, you'll get a nice general patch compliance score showing you how many of your machines are currently up to date. It'll, of course, show you all the patches that have been installed. And then probably the two most important sections here are at the very bottom, top devices with the most failed patches, and then the top 5 patch failures as well. So these are going to be where you commonly find all of the issues that are happening within your network. You can find those specific machines or find those specific patches that are causing issues, and then dive a little bit deeper directly into any of those patches that you guys are looking to install. Up here at the top, of course, we still have that full control of all of the patches that are going out. So we could manually go ahead and choose which patches we're approving, which ones we're rejecting, on which schedule you guys choose to kind of determine and configure there. From here, of course, we will also have the automated rollback features. So a nice option here is that you have any patches that support a rollback and that any of those need to be removed. we can always come into the list and then roll back those patches in bulk if you guys ever need to go ahead and do that as well. Another nice new section is going to be the vulnerability section. This is a new section that we've added into Ninja where you guys can pull your vulnerability reports from a dedicated tool like Rapid7, Qualys, or Tenable, or even directly from our AV integrations, things like your Bitdefenders or your Sentinel-1s. You guys can pull those vulnerability reports, and then Ninja will allow you to go ahead and see all of those vulnerabilities across your estate. From here, we can see the vulnerability itself. We can go ahead and see which devices have that vulnerability. And then if we click into the vulnerability itself, we'll get a nice overview of what the vulnerability is, devices that have been impacted. And then from that previous list here, we can also go ahead, pull up our list of machines here, and then go ahead and run those actions against those machines if we need to automate that patching. But of course, seeing everything is nice and handy, but we want to make sure that all of our devices are following those rules that we've set in place. So all of this is going to follow our default policies that we've built within Ninja here. So if we go into our main master workstation policy, in this first conditions section, we can go ahead and build in monitors and checks for specific things on that device. So things here like the BitLocker service, making sure that that's running on the device. We can obviously go ahead and automatically react as well. So if we want to notify ourselves that BitLocker has been disabled, we can then also have Ninja automatically run an action to restart that specific service whenever we need it to. This can, of course, be used for either reacting or for just notifying yourselves. So we can send these alerts out to various different channels, whether that be Teams, Slack, your PSA solution of choice, or email and SMS. Whatever you guys prefer and however you prefer to be notified, we can send all of those alerts out to you as well. In the scheduled automation section, this is commonly where you'll be able to go ahead and keep up with things on the device. So say every week we want to make sure that we reset the password on a machine, or we do something like that for our local users. We can come in here and set up any of these automations on a scheduled basis if you'd like to use any of those. The other very common option here is the run once immediately option. This allows you to go ahead and run these specific actions or these specific activities across any devices currently in this policy, and then also any new devices that join in the future as well. So this is very handy for kind of setting that baseline on a specific machine. As soon as the device joins Ninja, it can have a policy applied to that device automatically based on what type of machine it is. And then Ninja can run all of the actions that you guys have predetermined here to get that device up to spec without your engineers having to do those processes manually. Nice things like automatically creating local admin accounts, automatically provisioning specific settings for patching, any power settings on the device, and things like that. You guys can adjust, configure, and patch any of those holes that might be present on those new devices as soon as they come in. Of course, our patching control, in here we have full control of all the patches that are being installed on the devices. Most importantly, we can go ahead and control how the devices are rebooting and installing those patches on them, making sure that those patches get pushed out. So pretty commonly, you'll see here that people are prompting the end user. Of course, we don't just want to force them out, but we can then prompt them every couple of hours. And then after a set period of time, force them to complete those patches. That way we can make sure the machines are staying within the cycle and they're not falling out of compliance. Of course, predetermined scan and update schedules, so you guys can keep this on as narrow or as wide of a band as you'd like, anything from a daily schedule all the way up to a once a day or once a month schedule that you guys can predetermine here. Choose whatever your compliance requirements need, and then you guys can patch as often as those specific patches are required. The other nice option here is run update immediately if missed. Pretty commonly, one of the big issues is that devices will go out of compliance simply because they're not online during the designated patching window. This allows you to keep up with those devices as soon as they boot back up, making sure they keep up with the rest of the machines in the estate. Here, before or after, if you need to run any automations, Ninja allows you to go ahead and run those automations, schedule any specific kind of tracking, updates, and kind of stoppages before or after your specific patching windows here. And then lastly, here at the bottom, all of your approval categories. This is where you guys can come in, choose if you'd like to either auto approve, auto reject, or manually approve and reject any of those patches. And then also the new option that we've added in the last couple months here is the option to approve after X number of days. This is very handy in a both kind of testing and compliance sense. One thing that you don't want to happen is some of the patches to not be installed because somebody forgot to manually approve those because the machines are testing them before they get pushed out to the rest of the devices. Ninja can come in here and auto-approve those patches for the entire estate after 7 or 14 days, while still pushing those specific testing groups out and then pushing those patches to those machines first. Another big common one is the feature updates here at the bottom. This is also something we can manage with the Ninja platform. If you guys need to manage something like the Windows 11 upgrade or that new Windows Server upgrade that was going out, you can come in here and then choose how you'd like to approve any of those patches as well. Also down to a specific organization level or a specific device level, we can come in here and set any of those overrides and then either auto approve or auto reject any of those specific patches that are being installed. Antivirus, of course, we want to make sure all of our devices have the AV deployed. So going hand in hand with those scheduled automations, Ninja can automatically deploy any of our integrated AV solutions out to those devices. We can track activities on those devices. So if we'd like to be notified about things like BitLocker being disabled on the device, or if we want to track any time patches fail on a machine, we can send those alerts and notify through any of our notification channels that we'd like to configure. Just like with the Windows updates, we can come in here and configure all of those third-party patch updates. Go ahead and choose our scan and our update schedules here, and then go ahead and choose which pieces of software Ninja needs to keep up to date. We can add them to the list here. We do also support a Winget integration now. So there's close to 6,000 apps that Ninja can now patch, or over 6,000 actually. You can add them to your management list here, and then choose how those updates are being installed, and whether or not you'd like Ninja to automatically install that app on the device if it's present. Of course, another nice feature that we have is our backup option here. So if you guys would like to set up either image or file and folder backup plans, we can go ahead and keep all of those up in our AWS cloud, and then keep that information on whatever recurring basis you guys need to keep that data stored as well. Jumping out of here, I'll briefly jump into the library. So in this automation library, we actually have a whole host of new scripts that we've been adding on a consistent basis. In here, you have lots and lots of automations. These are all essentially finished, completed scripts that you guys are more than welcome to use. You just essentially need to go ahead and choose what that script is going to be doing on the device. So if you have something like, for example, checking Windows 11 upgrade compliance, we can come in here, find the specific script. Let's see. Find the upgrade compatibility script. And then we can go ahead and run this across all of our machines to see if those devices are ready to complete that upgrade, or if we need to start upgrading those machines to new machines. This is leveraging the custom field feature that we have in Ninja. This is another great feature that allows you guys to track and monitor specific metrics on your devices. We can go ahead and create additional data fields that we can pin to either specific device roles, all of our devices globally, locations, or any of the organizations we have. This allows us to go ahead and pull specific information about the estate and then write that back to any of our custom data fields. If we come to something like the devices overview, for example, here, we can go ahead and add those additional columns here, and then Ninja can display those specific data points that we'd like to see about those machines. So let me see if I have my Windows 11. Yep. We can pull that here, output that, and then Ninja will go ahead and display all of those specific values that have been populated by those custom scripts. This allows you to go ahead and create not only custom reports, custom dashboards, and custom overviews that you guys can share or display wherever you guys need those, but it also allows us to go ahead and create scheduled reports which we can track and monitor. And also within our policies allows us to create our own custom alerts. That way you guys can go ahead and monitor any of those values that are present in those custom fields. So if we select a condition here, we can do custom fields, and then we can go ahead and decide if this device, we'll stick with our same example here. Windows 11 readiness contains not capable. Maybe we need to go ahead and send a notification, send an alert out. Maybe we want to mark this specific device. That way it needs to be upgraded in a specific time frame. but essentially just another tool that allows you guys to pull custom information about the devices and then both display that information on the machines themselves, on a global overview in any of your reports, and then also react to any of that information or any of those values that you guys create as well. But yeah, just to kind of briefly summarize, quick overview here. At the beginning, of course, we have that full visibility of everything that's going on with the patching, when it's happening, what's happening, any alerts for any failed patches or anything that your technicians need to take a look into. Another thing, actually, I'll briefly mention this. We forgot to go over this earlier. In these pending buckets, we do also have the new NinjaOne Patch Sentiment AI. This is something that goes hand in hand with compliance. Of course, everybody is wary of the patches that are being released, but we do need to be installing those patches in a timely manner if we want to be up to date. So we have this new KB analysis tool, which will essentially compile all of the information that's available about the various different patches, and then give you guys a nice patch sentiment overview, tell you what's going on, if there's any known issues, what this patch might be breaking, allowing you guys to get a better overview into those patches before you're just pushing those blindly to your specific test groups. But yeah, like I was saying, nice overview, nice view into what might be happening in the future here as well with the AI analysis tool. Reporting and tracking if we need to be notified or if we need to see what's going on with our specific devices. And then of course, all of our full automation, tracking, monitoring, and compliance configuration with any of those scheduled automations or our designated Windows patching cycles that we were implementing on those devices. Is there anything else you'd like me to cover, York?
Yeah, we can maybe already jump into a couple of questions.
Sure, perfect.
So we have already, actually, we have a from Kasper Jonas here in the beginning about the NIS2 requirements. Actually, we have a letter from this auditing company. At the moment, I think that would be under NDA probably to share that, but yeah, we will provide also some kind of one-pager, but this is in process. So if someone needs that, you can reach out to the AM for the confirmation letter. So yeah, and then actually question about what happens when MSPs buy other MSPs. So basically the question is, if a two-man MSP is supporting a company with 10 people, let's say, who wouldn't normally be under NIS2, right? Who then sells to a company who has 250 people plus. So yeah, so basically if a small MSP is bought by a big MSP, let's say, then yeah, of course the big MSP that has to take care and potentially change procedures and policies and technologies and so on in that smaller MSPs, because of course this part of the business needs to be also compliant. But the supply chain risk, this does not mean that everyone who is supply chain, for example, needs to be NIS2 compliant. So this is also maybe confusing, but if you are an MSP, let's say with 30 employees, and you work with a energy company with 500 employees, which is NIS2 compliant, which is concerned by NIS2, then you will not by extension have to be compliant with NIS2. This is not the case, but you will have to be able to prove your cybersecurity standards and measures as under NIS2. Your client, the energy company, will obviously have to check the supply chain risk. So they will have to check for that. And well, if you have a compliance such as ISO or something like that, this makes it much easier. Otherwise, you will have to fill out forms and things like that. Yeah, so I had these discussions also recently where companies were telling me that. Yeah. And then there was a question here about the NinjaOne agent updating. So from 6 to 7, for example, you can maybe say a couple of words about that, Dominic, but it updates automatically, right? I mean, the NinjaOne agents.
Yeah, so the NinjaOne agent is fully up to date. We handle all of the update procedures. Typically, it goes out every Tuesday night is when we do our major feature updates. So that's when the agents will go through their update process, but we handle all of that stuff on the back end.
Yeah. And then there was a couple of questions in the chat and so on about the vulnerability importer. So this is not activated by default as of now because it's still considered open access beta, but with 7.0, which is scheduled for the night tonight until tomorrow, it will go into GA. So then you will see it in your dashboard. If you're like super in a hurry, you can contact your account manager and he will activate it within the next hour. But yeah.
And the place you can check this is if you come to administration and then apps, you'll at the bottom have this new vulnerability importer app and then all of the associated apps for Qualys Rapid7 and the associated vulnerability tools. And then if anybody's curious as well, the NinjaOne AI sentiment that I was showing you, that's also turned on here in apps. You can open the NinjaOne AI and then turn on that new OS patch sentiment analysis if you'd like to see that information as well.
Okay. You see the next question, Dominic, from Ian Dawson. When will the automation menu item go to the top of the list instead of downloads? I'm not sure if I understand this question correctly.
Is this in the Q&A section?
Yeah, it's in the Q&A
Yeah.
section.
Yeah, I don't get.
Just open the window, maybe.
I'm not sure what that question is referring to. When will the automation menu item go?
Maybe you can, Ian, maybe you can write in the chat, rewrite or be a bit more specific. Otherwise, maybe we move to the next question about winget packages. How are they vetted?
Yeah, so we don't do any testing of the winget packages. The only packages that are vetted are the ones that are coming from the NinjaOne database. So if we come to policies here, we can go to NinjaOne and then software. You'll see that you have two service providers, NinjaOne and winget. The winget repository is the public winget repository. So it's just what's ever available there that we'll be pulling from. And then the NinjaOne repository is our own internal repository that we've done some testing with.
Yeah. Then we have a couple of 360 SaaS backup questions.
Yeah.
Is it only the content or configuration or both? Very good
So
question, I think.
it's going to be a content backup of the 365 portal and the users' basically information themselves. So email accounts, SharePoint, Teams chats, basically anything that's considered part of their 365 profile.
So not the configurations.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we got Casper again. 365 backup, what is backed up and what is not? Okay, do we have a list in the dojo?
Of the various different features, I believe there is, but it's basically
Should
going to
be.
be anything that's in a user profile. So that would be the email account, calendar, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, all of that data basically.
Yeah. And then for Office 365, that goes into
That's the same
that
thing,
as well.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got that answered. Yeah, that's actually, I mean, the question is very valid. It's going to be very interesting in the next year or two how Ninja evolves maybe itself and sort of into a vulnerability manager. We'll see. But yeah, Ninja's being quite active now in this regard. However, I know we cannot give exact promises, but this will be also automated, the vulnerability imported at some point, right? Next year. Dominic.
I believe so, yes. I should be sometime next year as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's on the roadmap, but yeah, here I think we cannot be super specific. But like one feature that I'm personally very excited about is this what we have for patching for Q1, I think even the native script to trigger a patch deployment. So now with 7.0, it will be already possible via the API trigger a patch deployment. So basically, you can use the NinjaOne condition for CVSS score, very critical, 9 or higher, for example. And then if Ninja detects such a vulnerability, then can directly launch that native script to trigger the patch deployment immediately so that you can have this fast automated reaction. I think I'm super excited about that. And that's something that is coming actually quite soon. Not with the 7.0, but yeah, 8.0 or 9.0, so quite soon after that.
I see another question here, people asking if there's templates for some of the policies that I showed. Actually, here in conditions, if you come to any of the sections here, you'll be able to go ahead and use any of the pre-built monitoring templates that we have. So we have some nice ones here for brute force attempts if you want to monitor failed login attempts into the specific device, specific backup services like your VMs and things like that if you guys need to look after those. And then also, of course, some more kind of hardware application-based and then server-based, OS-based monitors here as well.
Nice. And here's a question about Proxmox. Can you maybe show the script templates? So are there templates related to Proxmox? Yes, there are.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a couple here, essentially allows you to pull that custom information out of those Proxmox devices and then alert that or push that data back to a custom field that you can then alert on or trigger notifications off of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's very useful that they build these custom scripts because Proxmox
Yeah,
is in Germany also very popular.
definitely recommend taking a look around at this template library. This is getting updated all the time. Last month it was 150 scripts. Now it's close to 250 scripts. So you guys can always come in here, see if there's anything new, and then use any of those scripts for your own needs as well. These are all customizable. You can edit the code itself, or you can just import and adjust the values that you guys want to change.
Yeah. And then do we have a list of all the monitoring checks in the dojo? I think. Do you know?
I don't know if we have like a best practices or like a template list. We have a list of all the ones that are possible, but I don't know if we have any kind of pre-built templates for compliance or anything like that.
Maybe that's something that I will take this to the team and we could definitely. I mean, we have this blog article with 28 blog monitoring ideas, but I think we could get more specific and build like a manual kind of. But we're also working on more templates in that respect so that you can work with more templates to make that easier.
Yeah.
What else do we have? As an MSP in the Netherlands, we're working towards NIS2 compliance for 25. Our complete chain of customers as well as our own supply chain is based in the Netherlands, except for NinjaOne. How far will Ninja be NIS2 compliant? Yeah, so this is so thanks for the question, Richard. I think here, so if you're a Ninja partner and so on, and you want to know more about the supply chain, obviously aspect with NinjaOne, so I think we can share this auditor letter with you. Yeah, but will be something then with the AM. So this was the question from Richard Brins. So we have more questions. Is the AI sentiment analysis an extra charge on our Ninja license? No. So this is part of the standard core Ninja professional license. Same goes for the vulnerability importer. This is part of the Ninja professional license. Okay. So here we have an anonymous user. Would you say WinGet is typically fine to use even if not vetted? So what's the experience so far, Dominic?
I mean, with WinGet, it's pretty safe, right? This is Microsoft's kind of default repository that Microsoft also pulls their patches from for any of the software. So of course, I might not recommend pushing things the first day that they're released, but with a kind of a little bit of a buffer, you should be totally fine pushing those specific packages.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yes, then we have a question here, integration with Intune Defender and Defender. So actually, there is an Intune integration on the roadmap focusing on deployment, but we also now have the SIP, right? Maybe can you show that really briefly? So basically, it's an open source tool that you can leverage and that you can connect with Ninja, and it gives you insights into Intune license and Microsoft 365 licenses. Yeah.
Let's see, do we have it set up anywhere?
And then basically you even have a link to the Intune device at the device level, right,
Correct,
Dominic?
yeah.
And you can monitor the Intune compliance status in Ninja as well.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have it set up here, but yeah, essentially you can set it up with your 365 tenancy as well, and then pull up any of that data that you want about your user profiles, how many licenses are being used, all that information as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so who was that? The person, Nicholas Johnson. So ask about the SIP integration, and then you can have a look into that. I think that would be interesting then for you. Okay. So someone has problems with SIP. Okay. Yeah, Matteo. All right. We'll look into that. Okay, but thanks for the notes. What else do we have? Does WinGet still have to be installed on the device first? Yeah, this is a good Samuel Polizano. Does WinGet still, you see that question also, right? The last one?
Yes. No, so we'll handle the deployment of WinGet and all of that stuff. It's all managed through the Ninja agent itself.
All right. Okay, cool. So now I think, so it's 57. I know we probably will have to spin the wheel a couple of times since we're quite a lot of people today. Just to get you a bit excited here, I'm gonna show you a picture of this wonderful drone that hopefully in a couple of moments will be yours. But yeah, stay in the meeting, please, because this is condition to win in the raffle. You need to be present. Yes. So here you've seen the wonderful DJI drone, and now we're gonna go to our Wheel of Fortune. So drum roll, everyone, please. I'm gonna spin the wheel. So do we have Andreas present on the call? Let me check here. Andreas, no, it's not here. Yeah. So yesterday we did the French and the German. And the French one, we had the first person was actually present, and the German one, I had to spin the wheel 5 times. So yeah, 59. Milo, is Milo there?
It looks like it.
Let me check also. Please write in the chat if you're there. No, I think he's not there. No,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
there. Ah,
He's
all
here,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, we got a winner. Okay. Congratulations, Milo. Where are you from? Write in the chat. All right. Okay, then, yeah, again, congratulations, Milo. We will send out an email to you, and actually, obviously, 1 hour is not a lot of time, so we try to give you here some insights into our perspective and also show our progress on the compliance side, show how our product can help you guys. But we definitely will follow up on this topic next year. So thanks a lot to you, Dominic, and happy holidays to everyone, and
Happy
see you
holidays.
on the next webinar, guys. Enjoy. Bye bye.
Bye.